Welcome aboard to the Captain Crypto Show. Today, we join the Captain's Council to discuss the latest developments in the world of cryptocurrency. Here's your host, Kylan Hurt.
All right, ladies and gents, the crew is back for another episode of Captain Crypto Show's Captain's Council. It's Wednesday, November 15th, 2017, and it's been one hell of a week in cryptocurrency. Tonight, I'm joined by my co-hosts. First off, we got Tay. Some of you guys might remember him from the first Captain's Council. How's it going, Tay?
Good, man. Glad
and
to
then,
be back.
And off to my right is a relative newcomer here is Brett, a.k.a. Maverick from the Edge crew. How's it going, Brett?
Yo, pretty good. Thanks for having me.
So a lot of the listeners are not too familiar with you yet, Brett. So can you give them a little bit of background about how you got into cryptocurrency, how long you've been in it, and what do you do now?
Yeah, so right now I'm in charge of business development and content for Edge, and I got into cryptocurrencies, I'd say officially at the end of 2015. It took me a while. I'm 25 right now, so at the time I was, 23. It took me a while to really dive into the technology behind it. I come from a finance background, so I went to the University of Florida and got a bachelor's and a master's in finance, and I was pretty much set on being an investment banker, some types of asset allocator, asset manager, and I decided not to go that route and really dove into the Bitcoin architecture and what people were talking about. It took me a while, and I finally went all in, and I've been basically all into crypto since the end of 2015.
Right, and you are actually part of the, I want to call it Airbits crew, but we are no longer Airbits. We've been rebranded as Edge. So you do business development for Edge, and you've been doing it for how long now?
About a year.
About a year. And what is that, for the listeners at home, what does business development mean? What on a daily basis, what do you do, or what's the strategy?
Yeah, so we're fundamentally a security solution, and our first implementation of our security solution was a wallet. And fundamentally, we can abstract what we do to a lot of different types of data. So it's not you can think of Bitcoin as the first use case for our type of security. And there are, as a lot of listeners know, there's been kind of like a Cambrian explosion of new projects that have similar security issues to Bitcoin, especially from the user perspective. So I'm kind of hunting down these projects that may or may not even know that they need us yet, and kind of being like, hey, you guys need our security for people to use your, application or whatever type of business that they're in, where the user kind of needs to handle their own data.
Yeah, I think what you bring up is a good point, because maybe a lot of people could use our technology but are not even aware of it. So I guess probably half of your job is just making people aware of the applications of this sort of technology, right?
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't describe my job as like closing sales all the time. It's mostly communicating and keeping track of these projects and letting them know how we work, and also keeping them up to speed on what their users are going to need.
All right. Well, Brett, welcome to the Captain's Council.
Thanks for having me.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, the world of cryptocurrency has had plenty of stories during the last week. I think the last time we met for the Captain's Council last Wednesday, SegWit2x had just been defeated. It had essentially been abandoned. But at the time, Bitcoin Cash didn't really, prices kind of were stagnant at where they were at that point. But Brett, I think it was Friday, something started to move around. Why don't you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so basically the big winner in all this was Bitcoin Cash, and we judged that by price movement. It's basically gone from, in less than a week, from about 200 per coin to close to 2,500 in
dollars,
some markets.
Right?
Yeah, and over the course of a weekend, and now it's kind of stabilized in the 1,000 to 1,500 range. And what we see is the collapse of some scaling agreement that was contentious, especially among people that would be called small blockers. And Bitcoin Cash was able to capitalize on this failure and really bring in money that wanted to see some type of scaling solution for the Bitcoin core chain. And some people might call this what they've seen as market manipulation or whatever, but markets are working. People are putting real money to work, and they are putting a lot of energy into this into Bitcoin Cash. And I'm personally, as a user and someone that's young, I'm really excited to see this, and I see both sides having some kind of like a divorce and are able to work out their theories on how to scale the network and what is the priority going forward. So we see with Bitcoin Cash, there seems to be a priority of everyone being able to fit their transaction into a block. And on the other side, the legacy chain, the one that people call BTC, we have a priority of people being able to run their full node. And for those that don't know what exactly that means, if you think of Bitcoin as a Sudoku puzzle, every 10 minutes, basically a node is someone who checks the work of the person that completes the Sudoku puzzle. So one side wants more checkers, more people to be able to check, and Bitcoin Cash wants more people to be able to actually transact cheaply on the blockchain.
Right.
And we seem to have a disagreement, diverging focuses, where one group is really advocating for digital gold, really uncensorable store of value, and the other one is saying, hey, we need to get this thing moving. Currency is useless if it's not used. We need to get more velocity of that money, more money changing hands, more instead of nodes as the metric for decentralization, it might be individual people using it, right? And the theory goes, you get more people using it, it becomes harder and harder to uncensor. So there's just a difference in theories and opinions, and just battles of ego. Right. And I think all of us in this room are going to be beneficiaries of it. I get to hold both coins.
That's what I was going to say. You sound like you have kept all your Bitcoin Cash.
I actually haven't. I sold about half of it, but I kept the other half because I wanted to keep it. I sold the other one to pay some bills.
Okay.
Right? It was a nice little dividend. I wanted to pay down some credit card.
Nice.
And I also rotated into Monero and a little more BTC because I tend to side with the legacy chain. Right? I think they just have a huge, just from the perspective, they have a huge.
Which one do you mean by the legacy chain?
The chain that has the BTC abbreviation, or what's that called?
Acronym.
Yeah, sorry. I tend to side with them because they've. I guess that's more conservative. They're not the new kids on the block, but I do like that Bitcoin Cash is really putting Bitcoin Core developers to the task, and it's time to put up or shut up. Bitcoin Core has been advocating second layer solutions.
Some pressure on them.
Lightning Network. Yeah. So I see the shit talking as a great thing for me because it,
we actively encourage shit talking.
Yeah.
Here
we got
on
a
the
lot
Captain
of
Crypto Show.
We got a lot of really smart people saying that, the Bitcoin Cash developers saying that, yes, we can do on-chain scaling and we can fix malleability without SegWit, all these things that Core has been advocating ad nauseum. They're saying we don't need it, and Core is saying, and they don't think it's going to be ready soon, and Core's saying, no, we'll be ready. We're going to put it out. So I, as a user and someone who's not highly technical, I'm like, hey, let's put it out. We got two different visions out in the market, and let's see who wins. And I plan on surfing both those waves.
Tay, so you asked the question of Brett, so I guess I have to ask you the question yourself. Did you hold any BCH at the time of that spike?
Oh, the spike. So I bought some.
At what price point, if you don't mind me asking?
I want to say below 1,000.
Okay, all right. Good.
And then I sold above 1,000, so I'm good.
There you go. Yeah, I think at last week, SegWit 2x had died. So it is kind of interesting, the timing on this price spike. And Brett alluded to manipulation. So I'm kind of curious. It's definitely something that seems a little, not just intriguing, but a little almost confusing to me. I don't know if I'd say confusing, but maybe there is manipulation going on. So what do you think? With the timing, it seemed like Pacific time, it was somewhere around, it was sometime on Friday. But it had been a day or two after SegWit 2x had failed. So do you have any idea why there would be a delay between the failure of SegWit 2x and then the price spike seen by Bitcoin Cash?
Well, I mean, we know it was timing. Whenever a particular thing happens like that at a precise time right before an event or right after an event, it's either, some type of manipulation, whether shorting, whatever. I mean, I was actually talking to somebody about that with Tesla stock today. Tomorrow they're going to make a big announcement. Today was some case, some lawsuit that they brought up and got blasted out of proportion. They said 100 people reported something of discrimination at Tesla, and it was one dude. You know what I mean? But tomorrow they're going to come out with their semi-truck thing. So just to put stories together, the Bitcoin Cash thing was definitely lined up with an event that we all knew was going to happen this week.
Yeah, the more that I think about it, I was just thinking, because I actually did end up buying some Bitcoin Cash at around $1,000. I think it was Friday morning or so. And I did notice it took forever for me to actually get my things out of Bitcoin. So that actually might be one of the big issues is once the 2x fork had failed, right? Once it was abandoned, then if someone wanted to move their Bitcoin out into something else, it probably would have taken them some time. It definitely took me some time. So that might add to it. But then, like Brett said, there might also be some sort of funny business going on. I think, Brett, you had mentioned earlier something to do with the miners.
Yeah, I've seen some, Twitter talk, right? I don't know how reliable it is, and people post graphs and stuff, but there seems to be a correlation between mining power and some of these moves, and what is it called? The mempool in the Bitcoin blockchain piling up, and basically that is just a lot of people think that people that are trying to pump Bitcoin Cash want to basically show how limited the space is for Bitcoin transactions in the Bitcoin blockchain, and keep that narrative going that it's expensive to use the Bitcoin blockchain, it's slow, it doesn't work very well, and they're using a lot of computing power to send transactions that kind of show that and keep that narrative going, and hopefully get people to follow the Bitcoin Cash roadmap.
Yeah, I definitely think it was definitely interesting how it put pressure on the people at Bitcoin. Okay, if you're not going to do SegWit 2x, then what are you going to do?
Yes.
And if they're going to do some second layer solution like Lightning Network, they might end up needing a 2 megabyte block anyway. So for me, there's a little confusion there. I don't know. They do need a roadmap. I definitely do think that they need a roadmap of some sort at Bitcoin Core, because right now it's fairly unclear where they're heading with things. Now, one kind of sub-story or subplot to this overarching story of Bitcoin Cash and the SegWit 2x fork failing was Dash. Within the last week or so, it seems like I don't know if it's almost doubled in price. So I don't know, Tay, have you been keeping track of the price of Dash? I personally don't own any, but
I think I got a few pieces of Dash.
Right,
that I have stashed.
What are those little pieces called, by the way? Because I don't.
Dashes?
Are they?
I don't know.
I don't know. I was just wondering because I know
like a bits or Ether.
Like Ethereum has like their finnies, I think. I don't know. Bitcoin is a Satoshi.
Yeah. I know Satoshis, but finnies I've never.
Yeah, I think that's the base. Is that the base?
It's like based. Hal Finney, I believe, is a cryptographer of some sort. They're named after different, not philosophers, but cryptographers and mathematicians.
So Hal Finney was the first person that Satoshi emailed, I believe, or was one of the first. I can't remember exactly, but he was like one of the very first guys to hear from Satoshi and correspond. So Vitalik honored him with a little naming of the base unit of the Ethereum Ether.
Yeah, I'm definitely a fan of that. It's kind of doing a homage to your predecessors, right? Because something like Ethereum or even cryptocurrency wouldn't be possible with some of the people, some of the, not philosophers, but the mathematicians and cryptographers that came before them. So to give them a little respect, whether they're still alive or not, I think is an excellent way to do things. But so, Brett, I'm curious, Dash, what do you think? Why are they seeing a spike? I have my own theories, right?
Yeah, at this point, I think a lot of the money going in is kind of new money. I don't know that to be the case, but Dash has seemed to keep a coherent message and keep their blockchain running, right? Like as every day that these systems stay alive, the more that the untrained eye would be willing to invest and kind of diversify their holdings, because the complexity on these things is so enormous that it's hard for anyone to really know all of it. And I think people just go, fuck it, let's buy a little Dash, right? They seem to be having some stuff going on. Yeah. They've had a couple of features and they've been in the space a while. So as I haven't heard of any double spends or mining takeovers.
Well, they get out there too. They're out there.
Yeah, they proselytize, right? They're true believers.
Yeah, they have like a slush fund essentially.
Yeah, and they have a different method of coming to consensus, and they have something called master nodes, which is a topic of its own. But I don't personally have Dash, but I love that it's around, and we have competing systems, and we're going to have a whole menu of currencies in the future, and a whole menu of networks on which we can transfer value.
Yeah, my gut instinct is that currencies that have either fast transactions or low transaction fees would see a bump from this SegWit 2x failure. So Bitcoin Cash, that makes sense. Trying to think of what the other was. Dash, obviously, they have an instance, and that's, in my opinion, probably maybe their strongest feature. But I don't feel too religiously about that. But go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I don't think low fees are ever going to be really a problem in crypto, and I think we're going to see a lot of specialization. It seems like Core wants to be this impenetrable blockchain, and then we see Bitcoin Cash coming out trying to really attack the Visa type payment networks. And I don't think, if you're in crypto, you know how easy it is to move in and out. So I don't think fees will ever be a problem. And then you have the Core actually has competition, because there is a strong contingency of people, not just underbanked people, but people in crypto that want low transaction fees. So I think the market will work itself out. And
right now we can atomic swap to Litecoin, move that Litecoin.
Yeah,
and it's just another
there's
step
no
right
friction.
now.
There's no friction. You just shape shift into that, and we'll have atomic swaps, like you said, or that's what's being
proposed,
peddled out there, right?
Right. So there's some cryptocurrencies that are more agile. I already said Dash and maybe Bitcoin Cash. Maybe you could squeeze them in there. Ethereum, fast confirmation times, low fees. Same with Litecoin as well. But for both of those, you're not seeing too much movement upward. Yet. So I think with Ethereum, maybe the ICO market is still drying up. So maybe that's keeping the price low. But I'm curious, what do you guys think with Litecoin? I do hold quite a bit of Litecoin, and it's just kind of
Litecoin is
a little stagnant.
It's I think once the veil is off and people realize, oh, this thing is doing everything I wanted it to do, and it has an old history. It's pretty secure. Okay, well. And it's close to Bitcoin and code and all that. I think I'll just use that.
Yeah, it's a good community, and I think it's a good development team. So in general, I am bullish on Litecoin. It is just kind of interesting that it's not seeing maybe a little bit more of a pump. What do you think, Brett?
Yeah, I own Litecoin, and I see it as a live testnet for Bitcoin. And you see like SegWit getting implemented on Bitcoin, which on Litecoin first, and you saw how things can be very contentious within Bitcoin because it has the most value attached to it. It is the most controversial, and you have kind of the loudest voices. But Litecoin is able to innovate pretty smoothly and kind of without the public scrutiny and Bloomberg and CNBC trying to dig in, and they're able to kind of implement things that could work on Bitcoin. And I see it as a complementary network that, I don't know how things will unfold, but I like it. I hold it, and I see it as a nice little complement to Bitcoin.
Yeah, I guess if there's one kind of upside to this failure of 2x and maybe some of the scaling failures that Bitcoin has had, it would be that a lot of the developers out there, a lot of the applications out there, whether it's exchanges or wallets or point of system sales, now that Bitcoin's having these scalability issues and transaction fee issues and confirmation time issues, I think a lot of them are seeing quite a bit of pressure. I say I think a lot of them. I'm one of them, right? Edge, there is a lot of pressure now. There already was a lot of pressure to add altcoins, and now we're seeing that pressure ramped up big time. So hopefully the bright side of this is that soon you'll see a lot of wallets, or maybe just Edge with quite a bit more currencies with low transaction fees and just a better user experience in general. So I think that's enough on that topic. We'll go to our next story here. All right, so Brett, I think you came in with another story as well, another one about Bitcoin. So why don't you go ahead and give us a little bit of an idea about what else you've seen, what sorts of developments this week?
Yeah, so the big one was an announcement by, I don't even know if it was an announcement, but the press picked up on it pretty quickly, an application called Cash, which is owned by Square, which Square, for those that don't know, is kind of like a point of sale merchant, accept credit cards.
Like
all that
swipe
stuff.
a card on a tablet at some little
you've probably
boutique.
seen it at some hipster bar or barbershop, whatever. And the significance is Jack from Twitter, he's talked about cryptocurrencies and blockchain and had said some very positive things about it. And he's also the CEO of Square. Square owns Cash, and Cash has about 3 million users, and that's what the press is reporting. And Cash, for those that don't know, is a Venmo variant, right? Just kind of sending cash back and forth. And they have allowed, the big story is they've allowed buying and selling of Bitcoin. Now they don't provide a wallet. They seem to be providing a Coinbase type service where
they hold the private keys.
They will be holding the keys, but this is another step. And I think this shows that, Bitcoin is going to eat the financial system, and the financial system will. How do they can't avoid not allowing Bitcoin to eat them because if you kind of want to be the first one to be eaten, the press that they get from it, the intrigue. If you just go on, I know this isn't necessarily scientific, but if you go on any publication or any app. Any technology, any person, whenever they mention Bitcoin, their retweets, likes, shares goes way up for whatever reason. Even if it's negative about Bitcoin, it's positive about Bitcoin. Same thing with Cash. Cash, they announced that they said all they tweeted was Satoshi, right? They usually, I looked at their Twitter
so
today.
they're even teasing. Their PR department knows how to milk it.
Yeah, and they're
they're
pretty
and
savvy.
Here you
on
are
social
talking
media.
about it.
Exactly. So usually their posts will get 15, 20 likes, retweets. This thing got like 400, right? They say they're going to announce, they're going to enable buy, sell Bitcoin. People download the app. They get featured on TechCrunch.
Mad
Money. Oh yeah. Mad Money. Jim Cramer just interviewed their CFO, right? So Bitcoin is still trendy. It's still hot. It's still, it's supposed to, it's a innovative technology. And none of these financial institutions and technology companies can't help themselves but to integrate it, even though it's a long-term existential threat. But I don't think that, most of these companies and financial institutions are kind of short-term thinkers. It's really quarter to quarter, year to year. Bitcoin's going to eat this whole infrastructure from the inside out.
Well, cryptocurrency will. I don't know if it'll be.
Well, that's what I'm kind of using that as a catch-all, right? Because everything's a derivative of Bitcoin. But yes, they can't help themselves but to integrate this invasive species, and because the people that do are going to have some short-term profits, and that's what a lot of these companies and apps are. Those are their timetables, pretty short-term.
What do you think, Tay? Is this a big deal? So, a point of sale merchant, I guess, not merchant, but platform integrating something like Bitcoin. Do you think that's a big thing? Something like Venmo, it's not something like Square, but Square itself. They say they have millions of users. I'm not going to argue with that, but do you think it's
definitely huge? It's a major player that's bringing in regular people who are trying to figure out the best way to maximize or spend their money, send their money. And if they get familiar with cryptocurrencies through something like Square, Venmo, whatever else, other companies have to respond as well. I mean, first we saw Expedia. Now we're seeing Square. Who else is out there? Overstock's been doing it for a little while.
Amazon's been buying up domain names.
I
Exactly.
think Newegg even does it as well.
Yep.
For those of you computer nerds out there.
PayPal has some interaction with them in some kind of way.
With what?
Coinbase, I think. PayPal, Coinbase.
Oh, so they've
had that for about a year.
Yeah, so one thing that I thought was interesting, and me and Brett were talking about this story a little bit earlier today, and our CEO, Paul, of course, he thinks like a CEO, so immediately he starts thinking down along the lines of, well, they probably have a lot of people who are using their payment service, kind of like Venmo or PayPal, to pay someone for Bitcoin, like just among friends, right? So they figure if they are probably seeing, because they have analytics on stuff, they can see what people are writing about their transactions, and he was saying maybe they just want to make sure that they're part of that transaction on top of that mining fee. Why don't they just have a little square fee in there and make a little bit of money off of it, right?
Right.
Yeah, and I'd be interested to see if they offer some type of API like Coinbase does. Coinbase is they've done a pretty good job. I've seen their integrations across a lot of different types of websites. Have easily, I've seen it for the organization called MAPS, which is for psychedelic research. They even have a Coinbase account, right? So I'd be interested to see if this Cash App is going to offer an API where people can easily buy and sell. But this is just another chance for the public to be, or another reminder for people that forgot about Bitcoin. It's coming, right?
Yeah, and another good thing is that some of these large companies obviously come with large teams. And like you said, they can write an API. And for those of you who don't know what an API is, just to make it simple, it's essentially a way that you can code applications to interact with whatever their service is. So an example, as you mentioned, Coinbase does have widgets and APIs. And in fact, we've even considered putting them in our mobile wallets. Now, unfortunately, their widget is not, I think it doesn't quite fit the way that we want it to. But if it did, I have a feeling we would probably be very open to adding it to our wallets to make it easier for people to purchase Bitcoin. So hopefully this is just another example or another step on this journey to mass adoption of cryptocurrency in general. All right, Tay, do you have any closing thoughts on this story?
Yeah, just the fact that Jack Dorsey, CEO of Square and Twitter, all the crypto traffic, if you want to have the latest information on crypto, you're on Twitter. They know that. They're monitoring that. I'm sure Twitter is getting a whole new life just from crypto. So I think they have, I was just discussing with somebody today how unprofitable Twitter has been, even though they're pretty important. And if you plug that in with the crypto verse right now, what's going on, they could probably start a revenue stream that no other social media company could do the way they can do it.
Yeah, and like you kind of alluded to, they also have access to as much analytics as you could possibly want. And you're talking not just analytics, you're talking real time, up to the minute.
Yeah.
So they definitely have their finger on the pulse of cryptocurrency and finance in general. So what do you think, Brett? Is there a connection there? Is there an opportunity there?
God, I really like.
Is the CEO of Square is the same as Twitter? Is that correct?
Yeah, it is, and he's put out stuff before about blockchain and Bitcoin, and I'm sure he's pretty high up there. I'm sure he knows all about it. But I feel like any innovative business has got to figure out a way to integrate cryptocurrencies into their platform, just like every innovative business has learned how to kind of use and leverage the internet. So if Twitter wants to succeed, just like any other platform out there, they're going to need to know how to incorporate it. And I could see a lot of different use cases for cryptocurrencies on Twitter.
Yeah, without a doubt. This seems like the companies, if cryptocurrency does end up being as large as we think it could be, then obviously you would think that the companies that have positioned themselves to get a piece of that pie can end up winning big. Kind of the same way that individuals, if they pay attention and they know how to navigate with cryptocurrency, they can end up helping themselves out financially. All right, we'll move on to our next story. All right, so our next article is coming from Bitcoin.com, and full disclosure here, I'm not an investigative journalist, so I cannot verify any of these allegations, and we're going to keep the developer's name out of it, but essentially this article from Bitcoin.com reads, "The Bitcoin Gold development team is under fire once again as the currency's mining community has discovered a hard-coded hidden fee protocol found within one of the Bitcoin Gold developers' mining pool code. Miners say that Bitcoin Gold core developer," and they say his name, I'm not going to mention it here, "added a hidden 0.5% fee into the BTG mine.org pool code that pays the fees directly to his wallet." So I think that summary kind of gives you an idea of what's going on, but essentially a developer for Bitcoin Gold, which was that failed fork from a few weeks ago, not the one from last week. I know there's a lot of failed forks these days with Bitcoin, but essentially it sounds like a developer added in some what would be considered malicious code where he tried to make it so that people in his mining pool who were mining Bitcoin Gold, a small fraction of it from every block reward was going to go to his wallet. So, I mean, there's so many things wrong with this, and I guess it's just allegations right now, but these allegations are coming from somewhere. But my question is, first of all, how does something like this even get into code? I mean, Brett, what do you think? What's going on over there at Bitcoin Gold?
I have no idea. The theme the takeaway is
I don't even think they know.
Yeah, if you're just looking to get rich quick, good luck, right? There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be willing to take advantage of you. I don't know exactly what's going on with Bitcoin Gold, but
I don't think anything's going on with it. This guy's getting 0.5% of zero right now.
Yeah,
that's what it sounds like.
I wouldn't know how to check it or what to check, but some smart people are checking that. So
yeah, well, it does seem like someone was checking it, and then it did get caught. But now you have to think this developer with these allegations. Whenever someone Googles his name, what are they going to see? They're going to see that he put in some malicious code trying to skim off the top of mining fees.
Another scammer. Well, this is cryptocurrency, and there's no shortage of them. I think that's enough on that article that gets at the gist of it. So we'll move on to our next story.
For those of ye out there enjoying the show, your captain would love to get some feedback on how best to improve it. You can find me on Twitter as Captain Crypto HD, and on most of the high seas of social media as either Captain Crypto or Captain Crypto Show. Just be on the lookout for my logo. Also, be aware that due to the technical aspects of each platform, that my podcast feed will always have the most up-to-date and latest revisions of each episode. So, if you're enjoying this episode, feel free to give your old captain a review on iTunes and share this episode with the rest of your crew. Now, back to the show.
All right, so as you guys know, obviously I have this podcast, and one of the reasons I created it was because I didn't feel that there were quite enough resources for beginners who are looking to learn more about cryptocurrency, and I kind of wanted to help them and encourage them to join cryptocurrency. So, Tay, I know there was something you wanted to bring up. Go ahead.
Yeah, just the fact that the sources that we have for finding out more about crypto today is a lot better than it was not even a year ago. Podcast, YouTubers, Twitter, Slack channels, Telegram.
Fucking podcasters.
Well, I would say the Slack and the Telegrams get a little crazy with it, but even Discord. I follow, I guess, Richard Hart. He has a pretty good Discord that has a lot of people in it, and you'd be surprised, like some of the conversations you have with the guys in there. I was talking with a group of guys today for about 2 hours, and just really good discussions, some joking around, but
high level stuff.
Not even high level, just giving you a good sense of the possibilities with certain things and things you're lacking on. You can just talk to them straight up, and it's easy. It's just like you're talking how we're talking right now.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious. You already hinted at some of the resources that you use, but can you be a little more specific? If some of the listeners are maybe interested in joining, or at least taking a look at some of the same resources that you use, what specific resources?
YouTube.
Like who on YouTube?
YouTube, you gotta follow Adam Meister, the Bitcoin Meister. He's kind of a Bitcoin maximalist, but he's to the point, and if you've listened to him for months, he's been right on that front.
In what regard?
Just the fact that buy and hold, that's his whole thing. Buy and hold, and he kind of pushes down a lot of FUD that's out there. So when people are impatient, he says don't be impulsive and all that. Things that most of us
You learn with time.
know already, but it's good to hear him again. It's good to hear stuff like that every day. Even if you are going to do, your own side trading with some alts, you still need to have that base. Also, Box Mining. He's out of China. I think he's in Hong Kong. So he speaks Cantonese, I believe.
Right.
So if something's going on in China, he's translating.
Oh, he translates.
Yeah, he's translating for you. His English, he speaks good English, probably better than most of us, but he is the source when it comes to anything out of China. First one you wanna go to.
And that's on YouTube?
He's
Mining?
on Box Mining.
Got it. And then what else? Like Twitter, who you following on Twitter that you pay a lot of attention to?
Twitter is really a mix of a lot of different things. You have to follow, I would say, follow the coins that you are into. So like Litecoin, Bitcoin, all of that. And then you'll see people following them. And you're going to have to follow people and then unfollow people because some people will go off on crazy tangents.
Trial and error a little bit.
Right. But the information on Twitter comes in fast. And it's fast, heavy. You're going to have to decipher who is, full of themselves and who is actually on the right level.
Yeah, what about, are you on Reddit at all?
I don't do Reddit that much.
Okay, got it. And then what about you, Brett? What are some of the major resources that you find reliable in the cryptocurrency space?
Yeah, so I'd say, first of all, if you're new to it, start with Bitcoin. That is the genesis, and you're not going to understand the other coins because they're really just deviations from Bitcoin on certain parameters or, certain characteristics that Bitcoin has. They change it up a little bit. So if you don't understand Bitcoin, it could be hard to understand why they're changing these other things. But in terms of resources, go to people that have been in the space and understand the narrative for a while. So some people that come to mind are Andreas Antonopoulos, who wrote Mastering Bitcoin, which is basically the holy grail of Bitcoin techs since the beginning. Trace Meyer has been pumping it for a while. Roger Ver has been. He doesn't give as much analysis anymore. He's more of I guess, a cheerleader for a certain school of thought. And then another guy that does a really good job is Jameson Lopp on Twitter, and he actually has a page, and I think it's a link in his Twitter where he lists Bitcoin resources of basically, beginner stuff, high level stuff, and everything in between. And then there's some finance guys that are really good, like Tur Demeester, Ari Paul, or I think that's his name, Ari. I'm not sure if that's his last name,
right?
But he's I think the chief investment officer of Block Tower Capital, and who else is from the Charlie Lee, who was the creator of Litecoin, has some good hot takes and very active on Twitter. And I think a lot of the action goes down on Twitter. So if you kind of just get in the mix, you'll find a variety of voices, some that are Bitcoin maximalists, and then some that are, very pro Ethereum. And I think the best person to follow on Ethereum would be Vlad, something with a Z. I forgot his last name, but Vlad, very level-headed. Right. I think a lot of people in Ethereum kind of get ahead of themselves because they think they can do it all, which they have a pretty cool thing. But Vlad brings some much needed credibility and level-headedness for Ethereum.
Yeah. Well, Ethereum, I got crypto with the crypto with the O.
Okay.
It's Omar Bam.
Okay.
He's actually up in LA now. I met him up, but we met him up there one week. We went up there and met him and his girlfriend. Real cool dude, down to earth. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Likable dude. So he's doing it for the Ethereum space too. Yeah,
and then another Zuko, which is that's
ZK Snarks guy.
Yeah, that's the Zcash guy. He's pretty excellent on there. And another big name for Bitcoin would be Max Kaiser, and he also pumps Dash a lot. And Max Kaiser's been on Bitcoin for a while, and he's also someone who can give you a much larger picture of the geopolitical
finance,
and the old finance. And
He's a Jim Cramer of Bitcoin.
He pretty
On
much is.
RT,
That's a really
yeah,
good way to
and
put
he's
it.
he's on RT, and he has a really good understanding of how modern finance works, the geopolitical situation, and he's been a believer in Bitcoin since probably like 2011. He always
since
links
it was
to resources
$3
and stuff. Yeah, he's been on it for a while, and I think he's doing well.
So would you say it sounds like the large majority of your resources are based on Twitter, right? That's like you said, that's where a lot of action goes down.
That's where a lot of and if you just follow a couple of those guys, you're going to be pretty well informed. Most people don't need to keep up with the whole conversation, but like if you could learn a lot just by going to Andreas's videos from all the way back to 2011, and that's a lot to handle,
right?
Just if you're new to it. But like I said again, definitely focus on Bitcoin, and then you can get into if you're really trying to understand and not get thrown all over the place with headlines and stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely would say over the course of this past year, especially as I've started working in cryptocurrency, I started to utilize Twitter quite a bit more. So kind of like what you said, a lot of the action does go down there. You actually get conversations pretty much in real time as well. Definitely one of the things that I do on Twitter is I don't always follow people that I always agree with. So I would recommend sometimes following people who you disagree with, just obviously so you can get another sort of viewpoint to a lot of different topics. But in general, even the people that you disagree with a lot, sometimes they are right. And like you said, a lot of the debates you can watch essentially firsthand as you hear the points and counterpoints. And so I do like Twitter as well. One thing that I also do like is I like using Reddit a lot because I can pick specific topics. They're called subreddits on Reddit. And those specific topics, I can make sure that those topics make it into my main page. So if I want to follow Ethereum, I just go to the Ethereum subreddit. If I want to do Ethereum more like price and trading, then they have ETH Trader. So they have a lot of subreddits for specific topics. So whereas in other how would I say it? In other social networks, you can kind of like sort by people. Instead, you can sort by topics. And I will say the one thing, and this is a recurring theme, is I think as a developer, I focus a bit more on some of the technological stuff. And Brett, he does biz dev, so he's a little bit focused more on personalities. So that's something that I think is a recurring theme that I do find pretty interesting. Obviously, you can't do one without the other, but you can kind of, I guess, lean one way or another. But another thing I like about Reddit is that you can sort things by how controversial they are. You can follow full discussions, and people have time. They're not limited to 140 to 280 characters either. So I would definitely highly recommend subreddits. As has been said, there are some good podcasts out there. The Let's Talk Bitcoin network has a lot of good ones. The Crypto Show is good. Free Talk Live is very good, even though they're a little more libertarian based, not just cryptocurrency. I know I'm trying to think of some others.
And I'd like to add another resource.
Go ahead.
Medium. I think not as many people are familiar with that, but Medium, Twitter, and crypto all kind of go hand in hand. People post their Medium blog posts. Twitter. Oh, and I'd like to plug Jimmy Song, who is one of the Bitcoin developers. He put some great stuff out there that someone like me can understand who doesn't have a technical background. Yeah, so Jimmy Song is another guy who's really stepped up his game the last year, being more social and putting out stuff that, someone like me who just understands the high-level stuff, he kind of goes into the weeds and can break it down simply for someone like me to understand. And Medium is a great for medium to long-form type
you can throw in images too. It's almost like you can have like a little storybook,
it's really nice in there. And there's there's volumes of people putting their views, how they understand the space, what they like about certain tokens. I mean, there's just volumes of good thoughts and pretty pithy comments on what's going on in the space, what things are, how they see things. So yeah, Medium and Twitter have been like my my best resources.
Yeah, a lot of people who would be considered big names can post on Medium, and I think they do because they don't want to have to set up their own website. The articles can be longer than 140 or 280 characters, so, and a lot of people like to use it because it gets pretty good SEO. If you write a decent article, it'll show up at the top of Google. So it is, I think a lot of decent names and decent writers have flocked toward Medium, and I definitely think you are right. Some of the most influential articles in the space have been written on Medium.
Yep.
I know you guys were talking about Twitter a little bit before. I've actually, a lot of the Bitcoin core guys I do follow, and I obviously don't always agree with everything that they have to say. Fluffy Pony for the Monero project, I think, is one of the more solid characters or personalities in the space. He does have quite a bit of humor, so just keep that in mind if you follow him. Double check to make sure he's being serious. He's usually not. I'm trying to think who, like you said, Roger Ver is another good one. Some of the early guys like Nick Szabo, I know Adam Back, CEO of Blockstream.
Yeah,
he's another Bitcoin core guy.
Yeah, if you go into all these companies have websites, their teams are out there. They usually have their social links, and you can, follow all of them, and you'll get a pretty good idea of what the teams are, what the sides are, what the ideologies are, and you'll see a pretty rich back and forth between these high-profile characters.
Yeah, and I would say back on the topic just real quick for podcasting, I didn't get to finish off. I know Analysis in Chains is a pretty good weekly podcast about cryptocurrency, and they have their own Slack channel as well, which I've kind of messed around with. Another one is Monero Monitor. I want to say it's Mike from Monero Monitor. He's actually pretty good to follow on Twitter as well. Yep. So those are some good ones. So hopefully that gives the listeners out there. Do you guys have any more resources off the top of your head? Obviously, next time we can mention any more that we missed.
Well, I mean, another real life resource is meetups. So
that's an excellent one.
I mean, that's how I met you guys pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much every major city has a Bitcoin, Ethereum, cryptocurrency type meetup, and you can meet some really, really interesting people that, they might be millionaires and you'd never know it.
Nope.
And they know a lot about cryptography and distributed systems. And
a lot of them have been in it for a long time as well.
If you're traveling, it's a must because I went to Australia. It was like second day after I was there. It was like at a meetup.
Yeah.
Everybody was partying because that's when Ethereum was jumping.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the really good thing about that is you can have just open conversation with people. It's not something where you have to tweet and hope they write you back within 24 hours. Yeah. You have live discussions with people of all sorts of backgrounds. Like you said, if pretty much any major city has a cryptocurrency group. And to be honest, for those of you listeners out there who your city doesn't have one, there's probably a lot of people who want to be part of one. So maybe you should consider being an organizer.
Yep.
I know here at Edge, at our office, we actually do contribute in the way of we lend out our space, essentially our office space, at least once a month to either the Bitcoin meetup or the Ethereum meetup. And those tend to be the biggest events in the area. Chris Groshong is the organizer. He does a really good job. But it is something that I'm very proud of. And the cool thing, too, is you'll end up making friends. I've made a lot of friends through cryptocurrency. And at these meetups, I get to see them, get to catch up, give each other tips.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, if your meetups start to get big enough, you can attract some of the largest names in cryptocurrency, people who you always read about, who you see on Twitter, these big names, and they're right in front of you answering your questions, shaking your hand. And that's a pretty cool feeling.
Yeah, it's the cryptocurrencies are the ultimate social network.
I told you guys I met not Charlie Lee, Bobby Lee.
Bobby Lee, right?
At Money 2020.
For the record, are they related or not? I don't know. Someone was.
They say they're related. I haven't heard anybody say they're not related.
Well, I didn't know if someone was just cracking a joke just because they have the same name, But okay, that's fine.
Well, it's like everyone's cousins in the hood, right?
But so one guy's Bobby Lee's like a mining Bitcoin guy, right? And then the other guy's Charlie Lee's like a Litecoin guy, right?
Yeah.
So you met Bobby Lee? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I was just like, "Yo, let's take a picture, man."
Did you get the picture?
Yeah, I got it right here. I'll show you.
All right. So for those of you who are following, what are you on Twitter?
I am Crypt. Hold on, let me go my. No, I'm not Tay Nation on that one. I got
Cryptanology, something like that.
Cryptology.
He doesn't even know what it is.
Yeah, something like
that. Well, I'm sure you'll post the Twitter for. Are you going to post the Twitter? Are you going to post the picture for us?
Sure, man. I'll put it on Twitter, even though I don't like posting myself out there like that.
Okay.
Damn little paranoid.
Got it.
I am.
Okay, so I think that's enough on those resources. There's obviously lots of resources out there, and we can circle back to this topic probably in a few months as we add more resources that we know of. All right, so we're going to close down this week's Captain's Council with a little bit of a topic that has less to do with any specific article or story, but it has more to do with kind of the role of each individual within the cryptocurrency space. So, Tay, do you want to take it?
Yeah, I just, was talking about it before, but the individual investor, trader, whatever you want to call it, actually has a lot of information at his disposal today in terms of crypto. You got all the sources we covered, Twitter, meetups. Like, you can be your own investigator. You can figure out what you're comfortable with. Have your own strategy that nobody told you about, or multiple strategies you're using, and make a decent amount of money over time. And I'm saying over, half a year or to a year. But it's a unique situation in time where we're at right now with crypto. I don't know if it will stay like this forever, but somebody can come in today, and if things keep at the same rate, even for the last 2 months, if they keep up this rate for a few more months, you can make at least 25% on your money with relatively little work.
Right. So you're talking about investing in general.
Investing in general, or you can do a couple of things. You could be investing, you could be swing trading, you could be day trading, all at the same time. And today you put in $100, and if you do it correctly, at the end of the day you can come out with $125. Go eat with that 25. So if that's what you want to do.
Yeah, and the good thing about cryptocurrency is this is not like a lot of the old systems within finance where you need to invest thousands of dollars at a time. You can literally start off with, like you said, $25,
right.
$50, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's at your pace. Start as small, as big as you want. I would say if you're coming in brand new, you probably should start small and test your theory, and then scale up if you have the income.
And you most likely will get burned at some point.
Oh, yeah.
So you stay small for a little while, let yourself get burned, and
it's a learning experience.
It's definitely a learning experience. One thing I was going to mention was that you're talking about investment opportunities. Additionally, the cryptocurrency space is growing, and it will continue to grow just as the price continues to grow. And that means that there are a lot of opportunities that are popping up for employment. So if it's something where you've gotten into cryptocurrency, you're past that, where you're already making a little bit of money, you're wondering, how else do I get involved? You maybe start looking around, see if there are opportunities for working within the industry. I would say since I started working within the industry about 9 months ago or something like that, my lifestyle has changed quite a bit. I mean, I wasn't doing this podcast. I wasn't even really thinking about podcasting about cryptocurrency before I started working in the industry. But as time went on, I'm all in, and I'm enjoying it. And it's not just, it is about money. Obviously, this is literally Bitcoin. Cryptocurrency is money. But also lifestyle-wise, it has been kind of a lot less stress and just a lot more fulfilling getting involved with something that I find interesting. What do you think, Brett? I mean, because you work in the industry as well.
Yeah, it definitely changes. Bitcoin is not only a revolution in money, but a revolution in our social relations. So the nature of work will change. Our ability to set up businesses that can easily transact over large, I guess,
you're talking about
geopolitical spaces.
Yeah,
right?
You're talking about a decentralized industry. So if you want to work from home, guess what? People in this decentralized cryptocurrency industry are probably pretty open to that. There's a lot of people working remotely, even on our team. I think about half of, maybe even more than half the contributors are working remotely.
Yeah, and I think once you start learning about money, it raises your level of awareness of what it is and what's important about it and what's not important about it.
Exactly.
And you can kind of live a more balanced life, and you're not necessarily always chasing that next buck, but learning how to position yourself and be an owner and taking responsibility for your assets.
Right.
And I think it, just offering that choice. People used to be born into their currencies, and now that you actually have a choice, right? You aren't just born into the dollar, the Zimbabwe dollar,
Right.
the Venezuelan
Very true.
Bolivar. Right now, you're presented with a choice, and that makes you kind of dig into both options, which you're now going to learn more about your society, your government, what money is, and
It makes you a global citizen as well.
exactly. So the money is the ROI is a great thing, but an even better thing for your long-term survival and thriving is the return on the return on the education that you get.
Yeah.
And it's really, I think it's helped all of us in our lives, and we're living a much better lifestyle than we were before. I know that's true for me. Kylan just talked
Without
about that,
doubt,
and Tay talked about it too.
I'm trying to grind. I gotta minimize so I can
When you're in
prosper
crypto,
later.
your awareness level goes up a notch, right? You're much more plugged into what's going on all around the world,
Yep.
and how different technologies work together to make this incredible system. And I think it's going to raise. Bitcoin requires people to raise their consciousness level, and it will do that.
Yeah, I think one of the metaphors that I keep on coming back to is that this pie, this cryptocurrency pie, is growing at an almost exponential, an exponential rate. And if you're smart, you see this pie growing, you'll try to find a way to carve out your little slice.
Yeah.
It might be a little slice now, but in a few years, it's
Yep.
gonna be a big boy. So I think that's obviously that's part of what we're doing here, right? We're doing a podcast. Some of us work within the industry. Tay's grinding over there.
You know, one thing crypto does too is when you talk about raising your awareness, it obliterates the work week. You know, because
Oh yeah, and
crypto's
cryptocurrency never
24/7.
sleeps.
Yeah.
and if China's doing something at noon China time, who cares what time it is here? Like, you're paying attention if you're getting those alerts.
Yeah, and I think even our working hours here, we do have business hours here at Edge, but they are, I'm not going to say, they are pretty flexible because, like our customer service, our tech support people have to deal, they're always getting tickets. It's not, hey, call from 9 to 5. When we have an app, if it's working or not working, if it's not working and it's in a million people's hands, like, you're waking up,
Right.
So that's definitely the nature of the industry. And the good thing is that means that tends to be more flexible with regards to what your working hours are.
Yep.
So it almost sounds like Captain Tay over there is telling the listeners to set sail.
Yo.
Hey, might as well.
All right, so we're going to be closing out this episode, but before we do, I'd like to just give a special thanks to the Edge crew. I know that is my crew, but especially Paul, our CEO. Thank you for lending out this office space for us to do this podcast. So until next week, guys, in the world of cryptocurrency, don't forget, set sail.